Brian said with that knowing smirk. Don't worry, we just need someone who fits the temp role. My name's Adrian Vale, I'm 35, and I've been senior project lead at Sterling Innovate for the past 6 years. At least I was, until about 30 seconds ago. I didn't argue, didn't plead, didn't mention the critical patent draft I'd spearheaded, the one already pitched to a major investor. Understood, I shrugged. Best of luck. I stood, feeling him expect an argument, maybe tears. Instead, I simply walked out of the small conference room, leaving behind the stack of awards I'd collected in my desk drawer. 6 years of milestones, they could gather dust for all I cared. Back at my desk, co-workers glared at me with forced politeness. No one asked what happened. HR ran me through the exit checklist, badge, laptop, NDA reminders, property returns, all routine. The recruiter handing me the package looked genuinely regretful. She knew the deals I'd closed. I wish things were different, she said. I handed over my badge and nodded. There was no anger as I rode the elevator down. Just a cold certainty. Sterling Innovate had just made the worst decision of its corporate life. The temp they'd hired, some kid named Mason Ruiz fresh from a big tech gig, had no inkling of what intellectual property truly meant. They simply didn't value the relationships I'd built. Outside, I walked to my car with my jacket slung over my shoulder. My personal phone buzzed with a message from Emily, CEO of Keyguard Logistics, one of my largest clients. Are you free tomorrow? We need to talk. Then a text from Rashida at MediStream. Just got a call. They put some temp in charge. One by one, my contacts from years lit up my phone. Not because the company contacted them, but because they were loyal to me first. 3 weeks before the axe fell, something shifted. I was on personal leave, not a vacation, not exactly. My father had suffered a stroke back in Asheville, and I took 2 weeks off to handle rehab logistics, finances, and help Mom settle the estate. Sterling's leadership had been understanding, or so I thought. I left behind a polished proposal for Sentinel, an internal IP I'd nurtured for over a year. Secure data routing powered by predictive sync optimization. It was experimental, but we had working models. The plan was to present it to Foresight Ventures during Q3. I'd filed it under my credentials in our internal dev tracking system. Timestamps, edit logs, version control, everything airtight. 2 days into my leave, I got a Slack ping from Nadine, one of our product analysts. Hey, just FYI, Mason's been asking about your Sentinel project. He said you gave him access? Want me to say anything? That was the first flicker of warning. I told her to hold off, play it cool. I emailed Brian from corporate IT and asked for read-only logs on the project folder. No response. The next day, my access credentials were downgraded. At first, I thought it was some kind of technical flag. But then I saw the meeting invite. Client demo, Sentinel Alpha walkthrough presented by M. Ruiz. No mention of me. No credit. Not even a CC. I dialed Brian. Voicemail. Texted. Why is Mason demoing my project? Nothing. I called Nadine. Her voice was hushed. Adrian, I don't know what's going on. He's been in meetings with Director Powell almost daily. Claims he made major optimizations while you were out. But I checked the commit logs. It's 95% your original code. 95%. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. That feeling in your stomach when you know the game's already started, and you weren't invited. Mason was rebranding my work, and someone up top was letting him do it. By the time I returned to the office, my name had vanished from the Sentinel documentation. Mason stood confidently in front of a live demo with Foresight's reps, pointing at my flowcharts like they were his. He used my phrases, even my pacing. The pitch was sharp, well-rehearsed, and no one blinked. I stood in the back of the room like a stranger at my own wedding. After the meeting, I confronted Powell. Why wasn't I looped into the demo? He didn't meet my eyes. Mason picked up the baton while you were out. He moved fast. Leadership noticed. That was my IP. It belongs to Sterling. You know the policy. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't negligence. It was a decision, and it had been in motion since the moment I'd booked my emergency leave. Mason was charming, no doubt, part of that new class of engineers who spoke more like salespeople than coders. Stanford, fluent in agile buzzwords, tailored suits, LinkedIn heavy. When I passed him in the hallway, he gave me a nod, like we were on the same side. Hope Asheville was all right. I tried to keep Sentinel moving for you, he said, tone syrupy sweet. I wanted to hit him. Instead, I just smiled. Thanks, Mason. Appreciate you keeping it warm. Let him think I was fine. Let him underestimate me. The email hit me at 7:12 a.m. the next morning. Subject: Team Transition Update, Project Sentinel. Body: Effective immediately, Mason Ruiz will assume lead role on all Sentinel-related development and client communications. Please route all questions and feedback to Mason moving forward. No signature. No CC. No explanation. Just a quiet knife between the ribs. I stared at the screen for a long moment, coffee growing cold in my hand. Then I forwarded it to my personal account. If they were going to erase my fingerprints, I was going to make sure they didn't get away with it. The calls started later that day. First, it was Emily from Keyguard Logistics. Her voice was tight. Adrian, who's this new guy? He just sent me your old pitch deck. Same exact structure, same closing statement. Didn't even change the damn font. I told her the truth, or at least the version that wouldn't get me sued. There's been a leadership shift internally. Mason's handling things now. There was a long pause. Then, do you want me to keep working with him? I want you to do what's best for your company, I said. But if you ever need a second opinion, I'm around. Then came Rashida. Then Kevin. Then Alvaro from Deep Code, who bluntly said, "Did they seriously think we wouldn't notice they swapped you out like a light bulb?" I didn't ask them to make changes. I didn't need to. They were calling me. That evening, I sat on my balcony overlooking the East River, a glass of rye in one hand, my phone buzzing nonstop in the other. There was no anger left in me. Just focus. Cold, clear focus. Sterling hadn't just pushed me aside. They'd bet on flash over substance. Style over roots. What they didn't understand was this. I'd been building for years. Not just software. Relationships. A day later, my old college friend Mark, now CTO at a mid-sized security firm in Denver, called out of nowhere. Heard the Sentinel demo was interesting. You okay? I gave the same line. Things shifted. I'm adapting. Well, he said slowly. If you're ever open to a conversation, I've got some thoughts. Some room. We're expanding. We ended the call with nothing formal. But that was the thing about real relationships. They didn't need paperwork to matter. When I returned to the office 2 days later, my keycard access had changed. I couldn't access the Sentinel Development Suite anymore. My name was gone from the Slack project channel. In the hallway, people nodded politely, but no one stopped to talk. Not even Nadine. Mason walked by my desk that afternoon, flashing a grin. Just got off a call with Foresight. They loved the revised model. Said the efficiency gain was impressive. The efficiency gain was my predictive sync model, the same one I prototyped 8 months ago and presented to Powell over Chinese takeout in Conference Room B. Mason hadn't revised it. He'd just replaced the header and removed my name from the notes. I didn't respond. Didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. I just watched him walk away, laughing into his phone, like none of it mattered. But it did. I walked to HR 20 minutes later and requested a formal meeting. The next morning, they let me go. No severance. No press. Just a box, a badge, and a weak smile from a junior staffer who wouldn't look me in the eye. When I stepped into the elevator, I wasn't broken. I was ready. 3 days after I was let go, I got a message from a name I hadn't seen in years. Jules Carter, Director of Engineering at Ardent Core. We'd worked together on a disaster recovery suite back in 2016. She always had a mind like a scalpel, sharp, clean, and impossible to ignore. Her message was short. I heard what happened. I've got coffee and a proposal. You around this week? I didn't hesitate. Tomorrow. Noon. Any place with real coffee and terrible parking. When I walked into the cafe the next day, Jules was already there. No suit. No pretense. Just a t-shirt that said code like hell, and a legal pad filled with notes. I'm gonna cut to it, she said before I even sat down. You got robbed. The tech was yours. The relationships were yours. They tried to paper over it, but anyone who knows the game saw what happened. I raised an eyebrow. And Ardent Core's expanding. We've got new funding, a whole and secure data sync, and I don't want some ex-Googler pretending to be the answer. I want someone who's already solved it. I leaned back. There's a non-compete. She smiled. We ran the paperwork. It's tissue thin. They terminated you without cause. Legally, you're a free agent. What about Sentinel? Don't touch their code. Start fresh. But if you have ideas, your own, from before Sterling, bring them. The coffee was bitter. The offer wasn't. That night, I started pulling together a personal brief. Not code, just a roadmap. The architectural philosophy behind Sentinel. The flaws Sterling never saw. The enhancements I'd been holding back because I didn't trust their QA to handle the scale. By morning, I had a 15-page concept outline. Not flashy, not formal, just pure logic and vision. I sent it to Jules with the subject line, "In case you're serious." Her reply came 7 minutes later. "I am. Let's build." Meanwhile, the fallout at Sterling was quietly spreading. Emily called again. "This new guy, Mason? He doesn't return emails. He tried to upcharge us for features that were already in our contract. And he CC'd legal when I pushed back." Rashida chimed in next. "They delayed our data export by 5 business days with no explanation. Suddenly the dashboard's full of scheduled maintenance messages. Funny how that never happened when you were around." I started to connect the dots. They weren't just moving on. They were panicking, trying to slow the bleeding. And in the process, they were lighting fires behind them. I didn't reach out to any clients directly. I didn't have to. They were coming to me, with complaints, confusion, and contracts they didn't understand. I offered them one thing, clarity. "Read your agreement. Section 14B. You're allowed full data access and system portability." "You're sure?" I helped write that clause. By the end of the week, I'd reviewed 7 separate client agreements on my own time, pro bono. Quietly, carefully, ethically. But word spreads, especially in our space. Sunday morning, I got a voicemail from someone I didn't expect. Darren Kwan, partner at Foresight Ventures, the group Sterling had pitched Sentinel to just weeks ago. His voice was calm but loaded. "Adrian, we should talk. Your name keeps coming up." That was the moment I knew. They hadn't just taken my job. They'd given me something in return. Leverage. On Monday, Mason called Emily. She told me later how it went. First, he offered a 10% discount on her contract. Said it was part of a preferred partner restructuring. Then, when she didn't bite, he started talking about me. Claimed I'd left under performance concerns. Said I'd been blocking innovation. That Sentinel's success came after I stepped away. She didn't argue. She just let him talk. Then she called me. "Adrian, the guy's unraveling." He sounded desperate. Honestly, he sounds scared. He was right to be. Because while Sterling scrambled to spin stories, I'd been quietly helping clients get their data out, reviewing terms, explaining portability clauses, empowering them without ever crossing a legal line. Jules and I were already deep into planning a new platform. Not a copy of Sentinel, something leaner, sharper, built around transparency and client control. We called it Signal Route. Day 1, we decided, no locking clients in. No hiding behind legalese. What you build with us, you own. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sterling had fired the one guy who actually built client loyalty and handed him every reason to compete. That same afternoon, Darren Kwan from Foresight met me for coffee in Midtown. We sat on the terrace of a half-empty cafe, surrounded by hedge funders and overpriced lattes. "I've seen this play before," he said, eyes scanning the skyline. "New execs show up, chase the optics, gut the culture." He looked at me. "You pitched Sentinel, not Mason. That much is clear." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. "Foresight's pausing evaluation," he continued. "Too much noise. Too many questions. But if you're working on something new, and you are, right?" He smiled. "I want to see it when it's ready." I gave him a small nod. "You will." 2 days later, Rashida forwarded me an email. Sterling's legal team was now reinterpreting her data contract, claiming she had no right to full export access during active support review, a clause that didn't exist 3 weeks ago. I told her to get a lawyer. She did. So did 2 others. The pattern was unmistakable now. Sterling wasn't just clumsy, they were obstructing. Actively. And Mason? He was drowning. He started contacting junior devs I'd mentored, asking for insight into code he barely understood, pressuring Nadine to validate his changes, holding late-night calls with Powell behind closed doors. He even reached out to me. A single message. No greeting. No context. "Let's be adults about this. You don't want a legal fight." I didn't respond, but I saved the message. That night, Jules called. "Our counsel reviewed the material you sent. Client contracts, the email chain, even your own termination documents. It's all admissible. If Sterling pushes this into court, we've got the upper hand." "I'm not trying to burn them," I said. I'm just done being quiet. She paused. Then let's get loud. By the end of the week, Ardencore's legal team had prepared a formal memo, not to Sterling, but to clients. A breakdown of standard contract rights. A guide to data portability. No logos. No accusations. Just facts. We posted it anonymously in 3 industry Slack groups. Within 24 hours, it had over 600 shares. I watched from the outside as the emails flooded in to Sterling. Requests for export timelines. Questions about non-disclosure definitions. Demands for data access. They didn't know who started it, but they felt the pressure. Hard. Sterling's first public crack appeared in a LinkedIn update no one noticed, except everyone who mattered. They announced the departure of Director Powell. Effective immediately. No thank you post. No transition note. Just a gap. By noon, clients were calling. By 5 p.m., 2 had paused implementation contracts, citing leadership restructuring. By Friday, 5 more requested full account audits. Mason must have felt it. He started calling clients himself. Cold calling them, as if that would somehow rebuild trust. One of them, Kevin, recorded the entire conversation and sent it to me. It was painful. You could hear it, the cracks in Mason's voice. The defensiveness. The canned language. The silence on the other end when he tried to offer incentives, promos, discounts. Desperation isn't a good look in business. Meanwhile, Signal Root was gaining momentum. Jules brought on a product manager, 2 back-end engineers, and a marketing lead. All people I'd worked with before. People who didn't need convincing. We didn't do press. No splashy launch. Just quiet introductions. And yet, word traveled. Clients weren't just leaving Sterling. They were looking for us. Emily looped us into a call with her board. Rashida scheduled a technical Q&A. Kevin offered to be a beta tester without even seeing the roadmap. I hadn't pitched a single one of them. All I did was answer the phone. Then came the call I didn't expect. Jennifer Blair, Chief Legal Officer at Sterling. I think we should talk, she said, her voice clipped but careful. I stayed silent. Let her fill the gap. There's concern around what's being circulated in the market. Contracts. Data practices. We're hoping to reach a resolution that avoids escalation. I almost laughed. You mean, now that your clients are leaving and your inbox is a disaster, you want a resolution? I'm saying we're open to negotiation. What exactly are you offering? She hesitated. We'd like to avoid formal disputes. We're prepared to reinstate your access, discuss a transition consultancy, or other mutually beneficial options. So there it was. They wanted me to clean up their mess. Quietly. Respectfully. As if none of it happened. No thank you, I said, keeping my tone neutral. I've already transitioned. Fully. Pause. Adrian, we're trying to be reasonable. So was I. I hung up. That night, I met Jules at a rooftop bar in Soho. She handed me a printout of our latest projections. 6 clients confirmed. 9 more in advanced conversations. 3 pilot programs already underway. You realize, she said slowly, you just gutted a quarter of Sterling's Q4 pipeline, and you haven't even tried yet. I stared out over the skyline. The wind was sharp. The lights below felt distant, like a city I used to live in, but didn't anymore. This isn't revenge, I said quietly. I know, Jules replied. It's just what happens when you build things that last, and someone tries to steal them. She raised her glass. To building better. I didn't smile. Not yet. But I clinked the glass anyway. The email leaked on a Thursday. An internal Sterling memo. Poorly redacted. Forwarded to a client. Then to 3 others. Then somehow to me. Subject. Client retention protocols, strategic containment plan. It was 8 pages of panic. Talking points, objection responses, escalation thresholds. One slide had Mason's name at the top. Another listed clients by risk category. Beside mine, hi. Investigate history. Consider direct outreach. The document didn't bury Sterling. It simply confirmed what everyone already knew. They weren't trying to retain trust. They were trying to contain fallout. I never shared it. Never posted it. Never needed to. The clients did that themselves. Within a week, for left. 2 more froze all billing. 1 threatened legal action. Then came the headline. Sterling Innovate facing mass client exodus amid IP dispute and data transparency concerns. Industry blogs lit up. LinkedIn exploded. Comment sections filled with speculation, soft condemnations, quiet support. Through it all, I stayed silent. I was done speaking. Let the work speak for me. At Signal Route, we hit our 10th client by the end of the quarter. No marketing budget. No outreach team. Just engineers, coffee, and trust. Jules brought in outside counsel to prepare for formal Series A fundraising. I sat in on the call, but said little. Watching investors talk about founder credibility and unshakable client loyalty, as if those things could be engineered. They couldn't. You earned them. One client at a time. Then, one afternoon, as I was heading out for lunch, the receptionist buzzed. "There's someone here to see you. Says her name is Jennifer Blair." I paused in the doorway. I hadn't expected that. But I didn't hide. Jennifer looked smaller than I remembered. She sat across from me in the conference room with her hands folded tight, her voice almost quiet. "We've let Mason go," she said without being asked. I said nothing. "We're rebuilding. The board wants to reestablish trust. Clean up the narrative." Still nothing. "And some of our clients have suggested that re-engaging with you might be a step toward that. Are you asking me to come back?" She flinched just slightly. "We're asking what it would take to stop the bleeding." I looked at her. Really looked. Not angry. Not vindictive. Just done. "You're trying to stop something you never understood to begin with," I said. "It was never about bleeding. It was about roots." "I don't follow." "I know." I stood up. "I won't stop what's already moving. And I'm not interested in salvaging what was built on sand." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then nodded. Stood. Left. No folder. No offer. Just silence. I walked back through the office, the new office. People laughed around whiteboards, argued over product quirks, debated icon colors like it mattered. They were building something they believed in. And that finally made me smile. Back at my desk, I saw a message from Emily. Short, simple. Sterling reached out. "We declined. Just thought you'd want to know." I leaned back in my chair. No speech. No victory lap. Just gravity doing what it always does. Pulling down what's hollow. And leaving space for what's solid to rise. 6 months later, I barely thought about Sterling anymore. The name still came up in meetings, sure, usually in past tense. A warning. A lesson. Occasionally, a punchline. But for me, it was just a closed chapter. At Signal Route, we were already into our second product iteration. New clients were onboarding weekly. Some came quietly, others with loud exits and long emails. I still hadn't run a single paid ad. We didn't need to. Trust was doing the marketing for us. Jules had promoted our lead engineer, Lonnie, to product director. She'd once been overlooked at Sterling because she wasn't vocal enough in meetings. Now she ran 2 cross-functional teams and a roadmap 6 months deep. Watching her lead, watching people defer to her without being told to, that was legacy. One afternoon, during a meeting with a fintech group from Austin, one of their VPs asked me, "What's your approach to client churn?" I thought for a second. "We don't prevent it," I said. "We design so people don't want to leave." He blinked. Smiled. Simple enough. It wasn't. But it worked. In October, we held our first client summit. No fancy venue, just a converted loft space and some good barbecue. Everyone showed up. People who'd left Sterling in quiet protest. Others who'd simply wanted a partner, not a vendor. There was no stage. No keynote. Just real conversations. One of our newer clients, a systems director from Michigan, stood up halfway through lunch and said, "You know why I signed with you?" I sent an email at 10:42 p.m. about a file protocol bug. Adrian replied 5 minutes later. He wasn't even on our project. Everyone laughed. I didn't. That wasn't unusual. That was normal. That was the culture we were building. And the part one liked most? I wasn't needed everywhere. The team handled things. Clients trusted them, not just me. Which meant this would outlast me. That's the thing no one tells you about legacy. It isn't about being remembered. It's about not being essential. A few weeks later, I was clearing out old files from my personal drive and found the original Sentinel roadmap. My version. Untouched. Timestamps from a year before Mason even joined. I stared at it for a second, then deleted it. Didn't feel like proof anymore. Didn't feel necessary. Just another blueprint for something that never got built the right way. Then I shut my laptop, walked outside, and took the long way home. No buzz in my pocket. No loose ends. No noise. Just quiet. The kind you earn.